In the summer of 2016, in Bel Air, Texas, not far from Houston, tragedy struck the Armstrong household. Antonio Armstrong and his wife, Dawn, were attacked in their sleep. Shots were fired in the middle of the night, and both were hit while lying in bed. Their teenage son heard the noise and quickly called emergency services. Responders rushed to the home. When police arrived, they noticed that the house's security system had not been broken. No alarms had gone off, and no doors or windows had been forced open. This meant the attacker was already inside. Antonio and Dawn were known as a loving couple. At 42 years old, they were considered role models and parents of a picture-perfect family. Antonio grew up in Houston. He earned a scholarship to play football at Texas A&M before joining the Miami Dolphins in the 1990s. His time in the NFL ended after ankle injuries, but he later played in the Canadian Football League for 6 years. After retiring, he and Dawn opened a gym together in Bel Air. Antonio worked as a trainer, speaker, and health advocate. The Armstrongs had 3 children. Josh, Dawn's son from a past relationship, was in college. At home still were 16-year-old Antonio Jr., known as AJ, and 12-year-old Kiera. AJ was popular at school and played football, following in his father's footsteps. On July 28, 2016, the family went to bed around 10 p.m. The security system was set. Dawn and Antonio were upstairs in the master bedroom. Kiera slept nearby, and AJ stayed in his loft room on the 3rd floor. That night, Josh was not home, having moved into his own place a few weeks earlier. Hours passed quietly. AJ was awake, texting his girlfriend until about 1 a.m. Just 40 minutes later, everything changed. At 1:40 a.m., AJ dialed 911. He told the dispatcher that he had heard gunshots. He went down to the 2nd floor and saw his parents' bedroom door partly open, something unusual since they always kept it shut. AJ did not step inside, but reported what he had heard. During the call, he sounded confused and even made vague statements the dispatcher struggled to understand. Near the end of the 16-minute call, AJ disabled the alarm system using the keypad at the front door. He then walked outside with his sister to meet police. Officers entered the home. They found Antonio still alive, but barely breathing. He had been shot once in the head. Dawn, next to him, had 2 fatal wounds near her ear and was pronounced dead at the scene. Both had pillows placed over their faces. Medics rushed Antonio to the hospital, but his condition was critical. Investigators walked through the kitchen and noticed some drawers left open, though nothing appeared stolen. On the counter, a note was discovered. The message said, "I've been watching you for some time. Get me." The handwriting was rough, and the letters were traced over multiple times as if the writer wanted to hide their style. Next to it lay a handgun. It turned out to be Antonio's own .22 caliber pistol, usually kept in his bedside table. Evidence showed the weapon was used in the shootings. The killer had taken it from inside the house. Forensics suggested Dawn was shot first, twice, while sleeping. Antonio was likely shot second when a noise woke him. The entire attack used the family's gun, which never left the home. This led detectives to believe someone inside the house was responsible. The alarm system had sensors on doors and windows. None had been triggered. Every window remained locked, and screens were secure. No outsider could have slipped in unnoticed. That left only the children. Kiera was quickly ruled out since she had been woken up by her brother and had no connection to the weapon. That narrowed suspicion to AJ. He was handcuffed and placed in a police car during the early morning hours. Investigators from the Houston Police Department began questioning him. They were struck by how calm he seemed. Officers expected grief, but AJ showed little visible emotion over his mother's death or his father's condition. Detectives felt the circumstances pointed directly at him. They asked AJ about his family ties. He admitted that, like many families, there were small disagreements, but nothing unusual. When pressed about his older brother Josh, AJ said they had typical sibling ups and downs, but remained close. Meanwhile, Josh arrived at the house shortly after police. The scene was filled with chaos, shock, and confusion. For the Armstrongs, what had started as a normal summer night had turned into a nightmare. one that would spark years of questions and legal battles about what truly happened inside that quiet Bel Air home. After calling 911, AJ also phoned his older brother, Josh. He told him their parents had been shot. Josh, who lived just minutes away in a nearby apartment complex, arrived at the house almost immediately. Josh had only recently moved out of the family home about 3 weeks earlier to attend the Art Institute. His closeness with the family was clear. He described himself as especially bonded with his father, while his mother and he shared similar personalities. He and AJ also had a strong sibling relationship. While AJ was being questioned, investigators carefully processed the crime scene. They found no usable fingerprints anywhere, neither on the weapon nor the handwritten note left in the kitchen. The .22 caliber pistol bore no identifiable prints. Shell casings were discovered not only in the master bedroom, but also in AJ's room upstairs. Detectives asked him about his familiarity with his father's gun. AJ claimed he had only seen it occasionally and had never really used it since being very young. He insisted he didn't know exactly where his father kept it. However, a troubling discovery shifted the investigation further. A bullet hole was located in the master bedroom ceiling. Following the path upward, officers traced it to AJ's third-floor room. The entry point was hidden beneath a pile of socks. When pressed, AJ admitted he had fired the gun weeks earlier while showing it off to a friend. Police were skeptical. In AJ's closet, they also found a pillow and blanket riddled with bullet holes. He explained that he and his friend had been playing around during a visit and that he had tested the gun at that time, muffling the sound with bedding. Investigators, though, pointed out a serious problem. Debris from the fresh bullet impact was still visible on the master bedroom floor. Days later, Antonio Sr. passed away in the hospital from his injuries. With both parents dead, AJ was formally charged with 2 counts of capital murder. He was released on a $200,000 bond, but his motive remained unclear. Investigators leaned on the evidence of the untouched security system, the use of the family's own gun, and the suspicious activity in AJ's room. To police, it seemed the case against him was strong, even if the reasons behind such a crime remained uncertain. But was the case against AJ truly solid? Investigators faced problems with the physical evidence. If he had pulled the trigger that night, there was no proof beyond circumstantial findings. Gunshot residue tests came back negative. No traces of powder were found on AJ's hands, arms, or clothing. There was no blood spatter, no stains on his skin, and nothing in his hair. Investigators could not locate bloody clothing anywhere in the home. Equally troubling, there were no signs of cleanup. No bleach or other cleaning products were found in sinks, drains, or showers. DNA samples collected from the gun and the notepad matched members of the Armstrong family, but not to any one person specifically. The same was true for DNA recovered elsewhere in the home. AJ admitted to lying about firing his father's gun weeks earlier to impress a friend. He also tried to blame his younger sister for the burn mark on the carpet. Still, he held firm on his main defense, that someone else had entered the house that night. He told investigators he saw a masked man fleeing. He described the figure as wearing a mask that showed only the eyes and mouth. AJ insisted the intruder was not white, saying he believed the man was black. Despite his claims, prosecutors reminded him that if convicted, he faced an automatic life sentence with no chance of parole for 40 years. AJ maintained his innocence. His family believed him, and his legal team began preparing for trial. Before the case went before a jury, a woman named Maxine Adams stepped forward with a shocking story. A friend of the Armstrongs, she claimed Antonio Sr. had once been tied to a prostitution ring through her husband. Maxine said the family had received threats because of this connection. She told police she had detailed knowledge, names, phone numbers, and people involved. She believed the killings could have been linked to Antonio's past associations. AJ's defense attorney, Rick DeToto, argued that the state withheld this information and that the charges should be dismissed. He pointed to the break-in at the Armstrongs' gym, which happened just days after the murders, as further reason to consider other suspects. The Houston Police Department, however, dismissed Maxine's story as unverified and moved forward. The motion to dismiss failed. By the time AJ went on trial in 2019, he was 19 years old. His defense argued that police had rushed to judgment. Within minutes of arriving at the house, they had decided AJ was guilty without considering other possibilities. Then came another surprise. The defense introduced a new theory of the crime, this time pointing toward AJ's older half-brother, Josh. Dawn's son from her earlier relationship and Antonio's stepson. Josh had moved out just weeks before the murders. In the years that followed, he had been diagnosed with schizophrenia and struggled with paranoia and violent thoughts. This raised the possibility of an entirely different suspect, one much closer to the Armstrong family than anyone first imagined. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime stories.